Hey, so I just finished watching Relic, which is the first of several new releases that I've been needing to catch up on from, well, I guess it's not the first, but several new releases from last year I've been needing to catch up on, and this was one of them that I had been wanting to see. And I kind of have to agree with audiences on this one over the critics. I kind of have more of a mixed reception of this one, which is kind of a bummer because this movie has really great ideas. It's just the execution of it is way too much of a slow burn that's more boring than anything. It tries to be scary and it tries to be emotionally compelling, but it fails at both of those and it just leaves me bored and like waiting for them to realize that they can just kill their grandma. Since she's turning into this like feral creature thing, which I thought she was gonna turn into like an actual like Lovecraftian creature from what I had heard. Like, what Michael Rooker turns into at the end of Slither. I thought that's what she was gonna turn into at the end. But no, she just goes full under the skin on them. So okay. The ending definitely went the furthest into redeeming the movie, but it wasn't enough for me. Cause when the movie doesn't get interesting until like the last 10 minutes of the movie, then like something's wrong with the movie. It's just a lot of things that sound better on paper than in execution, and all the emotional heartstring tugs don't really work for me because there wasn't much of a build up like between the daughter, the granddaughter, and the grandma. It was mostly just crazy grandma acts out and tries to kill her children and grandchildren. And then one scene in the third act where she showed vulnerability, and that was it for like being like, oh, but she's a human inside, even though she's got the dementia allegory. It's not enough. They should have pulled on that harder leading up to it. They should have showed her human side first, and then after they've made you side with like the grandma and like been like, oh no, poor thing is scared and she's dying and like I feel so bad for her. I sympathize with that. And then go into the whole whoa, she's acting like a lunatic thing because it's a horror movie or whatever, but you don't want to have your first response be I feel nothing for this grandma character. Why don't the other characters just end their troubles by just killing her, because that's the easiest way to deal with this, and there's like no redeeming her character at this point. Cuz she's just yeah. There weren't like a lot of interesting moments until like those last 10 minutes, because there's like a lot of cool ideas. Like one that I heard going into the movie was like the idea of like a house swallowing you is like probably the scariest idea in the movie. Some of the attempts at horror were not only not scary, but were also like hilarious, unintentionally so. Like the jump scare where the grandma like stabbed herself in the face, that was hilarious. I don't care who you are. That was funny. Yeah, I know. I definitely just like felt nothing for the movie, which is a shame because it's one of those movies where you need to feel something. And like having my own personal experiences with something similar, you'd think I would be more sympathetic towards it. But just the unsympathetic approach towards the grandma is mostly like the biggest turn off, that and the slow, boring pacing, and the fact that it takes over an hour into a movie that's less than an hour and a half before anything interesting begins to happen in the movie. It's just a bummer because there is interesting stuff in there, and that allegory of dementia and like the horror of losing someone versus literally the horrors of losing someone and then becoming like something that like is way less likable than your memories of what they were, sort of like tainting your memories of them. Like that's all good stuff. That's all good stuff conceptually, but how it's handled like could have been done better. And it definitely just that third act should have just been the whole movie, basically. It just needs to reorganize things and make itself more like not only convincing, but like engaging for sure. There were some nice visuals, but I was shocked at the end credits just how many like famous people produced it. Like the Russo brothers, Jake Gyllenhaal, all these people that I knew like had produced it before, but I had forgotten. And like after having watched the movie, I'm like, really? It doesn't really show in the end product, which is kind of depressing. Yeah, I give it like a 5.5, maybe 5.75 out of 10. So, yeah, hopefully you guys got more out of it than I did, but I just no, not for me.